My fiancée confessed, "I'm only marrying you for a green card." I smiled and said, "I know, that's the plan." Her face went pale at the wedding when my best man, the immigration officer I'd been working with, put his hand on her shoulder. I, 29 male, met Natalia, 26, 18 months ago, at a startup networking event. She was brilliant, charming, and had this accent that made everything sound like poetry. Ukrainian, working here on an expiring work visa. We hit it off immediately. Or so I thought. 6 months in, she moved into my apartment. Everything seemed perfect. She cooked these amazing dishes from her homeland, laughed at my terrible jokes, met my family. My mom adored her. My sister kept saying I'd won the lottery. And then about 10 months into dating, she started dropping hints about her visa situation. How stressed she was. How she might have to leave. I offered to help her find an immigration lawyer, look into visa extensions. That's when she suggested we could just get married. It would solve everything, she said with those big brown eyes. I was actually considering proposing anyway, so I went along with it. Got a ring, did the whole romantic proposal thing at our favorite restaurant. She cried, posted it everywhere on social media. Her friends back home were thrilled. But here's where it gets interesting. 2 weeks after our engagement, I came home early from work with food poisoning. Heard her on the phone in our bedroom, speaking rapid Ukrainian. I know a bit, my college roommate was Ukrainian and taught me some basics. She was telling someone named Victor that the stupid American had proposed, that everything was going according to plan, and that in 2 years after she got her permanent green card, she'd divorce me and bring him over. She literally said, and I quote, "Because this burned into my brain, he's so naive, thinks I actually love him, but he has good credit and a tech job. Perfect sponsor." I stood there in my hallway, holding my stomach, trying not to throw up from both the food poisoning and what I was hearing. She laughed, actually laughed about how I cried during the proposal. I went back outside, sat in my car for 20 minutes, then came back in, making noise. She greeted me with a kiss and concern about my illness. Oscar-worthy performance. That night, while she slept, I went through her phone. Yeah, I know, invasion of privacy and all that. But what I found, Victor wasn't just some friend. He was her boyfriend of 4 years. There were photos, intimate messages, plans for their future together once she secured her American status. Their last video call was that morning. While I was at work, she was telling this dude she loved him. I had 2 options, confront her immediately or play the long game. I chose the long game. The next day, I contacted my cousin Rodriguez, who happens to work for ICE, told him everything. He said marriage fraud is a federal crime, punishable by up to 5 years in prison and $250,000 in fines. He asked if I was willing to help build a case. Hell yes, I was. For the next 8 months, I documented everything. Every conversation where she mentioned her visa. Every text to Victor. I learned her phone password. Every time she transferred money to him in Ukraine. Every fake "I love you" while she texted him that she loved him. Rodriguez guided me through it all. Told me what to document, what to save. We built a file thicker than my work laptop. The wedding planning was the worst part. She wanted extravagant everything, knowing I'd pay. Demanded a specific venue, designer dress, expensive photographer, total bridezilla. Her entitlement went through the roof once that ring was on her finger. Started talking about our money, making plans for our future, while texting Victor about their actual future plans. She even had the audacity to insist her cousin Volodymyr be at the wedding. Guess what? Volodymyr was Victor. She was going to have her real boyfriend at our fake wedding. 3 days before the wedding, she sat me down and said, "I need to be honest with you. I'm only marrying you for a green card." She said it like she was doing me a favor by being truthful. Explained how it was a win-win. I get a beautiful wife for a few years, she gets to stay in America. She'd be the perfect wife, she promised. Just don't expect it to last forever. I smiled and said, "I know, that's the plan." Her face went white. What? Natalia, I've known since February, about Victor, about everything. She tried to recover, started crying, saying I misunderstood. Then when that didn't work, she got angry. Threatened to leave, to expose me for entrapping her. I stayed calm. The wedding's in 3 days. Your family already flew in from Ukraine. Expensive tickets, non-refundable. You sure you want to cancel? She looked at me with pure calculation in her eyes. You're bluffing. Maybe. Guess we'll find out at the altar. She didn't leave. The entitlement was too strong. She really thought she could still pull this off, that I was too in love or too weak to do anything. Wedding day arrived. Beautiful venue she'd insisted on. All our friends and family there. Her mom crying in the front row. Victor sitting 3 rows back as cousin Vladimir. Rodriguez stood next to me as my best man, looking sharp in his suit. Natalia knew him as my cousin Bobby, who worked in government logistics. The ceremony was perfect until the judge asked if anyone objected. That's when Rodriguez stepped forward, pulled out his badge, and said, "I do. Agent Rodriguez, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Miss Natalia, you're under investigation for marriage fraud." The look on her face. The complete shock. The way her eyes darted to Victor, who was already trying to leave, but found 2 other agents blocking his exit. But here's the thing. We went through with the ceremony. Rodriguez explained to the stunned crowd that this was part of an ongoing investigation, and we needed to complete the ceremony for legal purposes. The judge, who'd been briefed beforehand, continued. Natalia stood there shaking as we exchanged vows. The same vows she'd practiced so perfectly. When it came time to kiss the bride, I leaned in and whispered, "Smile for the cameras. This is all evidence now." The reception was cancelled, obviously. Natalia was taken in for questioning. Victor too. Her family was in hysterics. My family. Well, they were shocked but supportive when I explained everything. Update 1. Holy hell, the last 2 weeks have been insane. First, the legal stuff. Natalia was charged with marriage fraud and conspiracy to commit immigration fraud. Victor was charged as a co-conspirator since they found evidence he was planning to use her status to immigrate too. Because we technically completed the ceremony, she's legally my wife, which made the evidence even more damning. But the entitlement didn't stop there. Oh no. It got worse. Her mother called me the day after the wedding, crying and begging, then screaming when I wouldn't help. Then she tried to guilt me by saying I'd ruined her daughter's life. And that in their culture, this brought shame on their entire family. I reminded her that in American culture, fraud is a crime. Natalia, out on bail, showed up at my apartment 4 days post-wedding with her lawyer. Not to apologize. To demand alimony. Since we were technically married, her lawyer argued she was entitled to spousal support. The balls on this woman. My lawyer, different from Rodriguez, obviously, shut that down real quick. Marriages entered into fraudulently can be annulled, and you can't profit from your own crime. But she didn't stop there. She went on social media, posting this sob story about how I trapped her, how I was abusive and controlling, how I worked with ICE to destroy an innocent immigrant's dreams. Some of her friends started harassing me online. One even showed up at my workplace, causing a scene in the lobby before security removed them. Then came the best part. Victor turned on her. Completely. When faced with federal charges, he sang like a canary. Provided emails, texts, even recordings of their phone calls, planning the whole thing. Turns out this wasn't their first rodeo. They'd tried this scam in Canada 2 years ago, but got cold feet. Rodriguez told me Victor's testimony included details about how Natalia had researched me, specifically. My salary, my credit score, my family situation. She targeted me at that networking event. It wasn't random. She knew I worked in tech, knew I was single, knew I was financially stable. She'd done her homework. The prosecutor offered her a plea deal, plead guilty, serve 18 months, then deportation. Her lawyer advised her to take it. She refused. She wanted a trial. She genuinely believed she could convince a jury that I was the real villain here. That's the level of entitlement we're dealing with. Her family started a GoFundMe for her legal defense, claiming she was a victim of the American legal system. It raised $3,000 before GoFundMe shut it down for violating their terms about funding legal defense for crimes. Last Thursday, she did something that still blows my mind. She contacted my mother, went to her house, cried on her doorstep about how she really did love me, how this was all a misunderstanding. My mom, bless her, recorded the whole thing on her Ring doorbell and sent it to my lawyer. In the recording, Natalia literally admits to the marriage fraud while trying to get my mom to convince me to drop the charges. My mom's response: "Honey, I liked you. But you played my son for a fool. And worse, you played me for a fool. Get off my porch before I call the cops myself." The trial date was set for next month. Her lawyer dropped her after she refused the plea deal and kept posting on social media against his advice. She had to get a public defender. Victor, meanwhile, took a deal. Plead guilty, got 12 months and deportation. He's already serving his sentence. Update 2. The trial just ended yesterday. I need a drink or 10. Natalia represented herself for part of it after firing her public defender for being incompetent, aka telling her she had no case. Watching her try to cross-examine me was something else. Her, "Isn't it true you told me you loved me?" "Yes, before I knew you were scamming me." "So you lied?" "Me, no, I believed it was true at the time." "But you continued saying it after February." "Me, under instruction from federal agents to maintain the investigation." "So you admit you deceived me?" Judge: Miss Natalia, deceiving someone who is committing fraud against you is not a crime. She tried to submit character witnesses, friends who would testify she was a good person. The prosecutor submitted her text messages calling Americans stupid and easy targets. She tried to claim Victor was just a friend. The prosecutor played a recording of their phone sex session that Victor had provided. She tried to say I forced her into marriage. The prosecutor showed her social media posts celebrating the engagement, the ring, the wedding planning. But the nail in the coffin. Remember that GoFundMe her family started? Well, the prosecutor found messages where she was telling people to donate because once she won the lawsuit she'd pay them back double from the settlement she'd get from suing me and the government. She was running another scam while on trial for fraud. The jury deliberated for 2 hours, guilty on all charges. The sentencing was last week. The judge gave her 3 years in federal prison, followed by deportation and a permanent ban from entering the United States. She has to pay $15,000 in fines too. Her reaction: she screamed that this was discrimination, that I was a monster, that the system was rigged against immigrants. As they led her away, she yelled that she'd destroy my life when she got out. The judge added 6 months for contempt of court. Our marriage was officially annulled last month. Fastest divorce ever, technically. The aftermath: my workplace had to increase security after more of her friends tried to protest there. I had to change my phone number after getting hundreds of calls and texts from random numbers. Her mother sent me a bill for the plane tickets and hotel for the wedding. Someone, definitely her friends, left a dead fish in my mailbox. My car got keyed with snitch. A Ukrainian Facebook group put me on blast as an enemy of immigrants. But you know what? Worth it. Rodriguez told me that the investigation led to uncovering a whole ring of marriage fraud schemes. 15 other couples are now under investigation. Natalia and Victor were just part of a larger operation. I'm in therapy now, working through the trust issues. Dating is complicated. How do you explain this story to someone new? Oh yeah, my ex-wife tried to scam me for a green card, so I worked with federal agents to send her to prison. Pass the breadsticks. But I'm oddly at peace with it all. She made her choices. She targeted me, used me, laughed about me behind my back with her real boyfriend. She thought I was weak and stupid. She thought wrong. The best part: last week I got a letter from Victor through his lawyer. He wanted to apologize and warn me that Natalia's friends were planning something. He seems genuinely remorseful, or maybe he's just trying to reduce his sentence. Either way, I forwarded it to Rodriguez. To anyone reading this who might be in a similar situation, trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Document everything. And don't let anyone make you feel guilty for protecting yourself from fraud. And Natalia, if you somehow see this from federal prison, orange really isn't your color. Edit. For those asking, yes, this is all real. Yes, I have trust issues now. No, I'm not dating anyone. Yes, my family still supports me. No, I don't regret any of it. And yes, cousin Vladimir really thought he could sit at my wedding and watch his girlfriend marry me for papers. The audacity still amazes me.